Stealth is a hydraulic launching roller coaster that rockets its trains from 0 to 80 miles per hour in just 1.8 seconds. The ride debuted in 2006 in the Amity section of Thorpe Park, a theme park about an hour outside of London. Stealth was created by Intamin Amusement Rides, a firm known for building some of the world's best roller coasters. Due to the closure of Dodonpa at Fuji-Q Highland, which launched trains from 0 to 112 miles per hour in 1.56 seconds, Stealth is now the world's fastest accelerating roller coaster. Stealth is one of 14 hydraulic launching roller coasters, otherwise known as accelerator coasters, built by Intamin, and one of 3 Intamin accelerator coasters purchased by Thorpe Park's parent company, Merlin Entertainments. Those other 2 coasters being Rita at Alton Towers, which opened in 2005, and Desert Race at Heide Park, which opened in 2007. In this video, we'll be nerding out over a special trick utilized on Stealth, as well as Rita and Desert Race, that improves the ride experience for all, which, as you can guess by the title of this video, has to do with block zones. If you enjoy this video as it plays, I kindly ask for your support by clicking the like button, which greatly aids the channel in the continuous fight against the YouTube algorithm. Without further delay, let's dive in. Stealth, Rita, and Desert Race all feature an identical load, unload, and launch setup. The 3 coasters have separate load and unload stations set up back-to-back linearly, and trains are launched from the load station. Launching trains directly from the load station isn't unique to these 3 rides, and other Intamin hydraulic launch coasters like Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm do the same. While launching trains directly from the load station is awesome from a ride experience standpoint, it's not the best for rider capacity, as it can reduce the number of trains that launch an hour. This is because when you launch a train directly from the station, it delays when the next train can enter the station to start boarding new riders every single cycle. The train waiting to enter the station must wait for the train that launched ahead of it to clear some sort of incline following the launch track, like a top hat shown here. It's possible for a launching train to not gain enough speed, causing it to not roll over the incline following the launch. This leads to a rollback, where the train rolls backwards down the incline and back into the launch track where it is slowed by a set of brakes. For rides that launch directly from the station must remain empty following a launch in order to provide enough space for this train to slow down if it rolls back, as well as to allow that train to re-enter the station so it can be launched again. But once the train clears the incline following the launch, only then can the next train enter the station and launch track. This is utilized on rides like Accelerator, as well as rides like Flight of Fear at King's Dominion and King's Island, where the next train cannot enter the load station until the train ahead has made it halfway through the Cobra roll. Ideally, the next train should roll into the load station as soon as possible to minimize the time between each dispatch, allowing more riders to ride an attraction. On more capacity-oriented launch coasters like Thunderbird at Holiday World, the launch and station are separated. Trains are dispatched from the station into the launch, allowing the next train to roll into the station right away. Now, if the train on the launch were to roll back, it has a separate dedicated space independent from the main station where it can come to a full stop and relaunch. This is a much more optimal setup for a launching roller coaster, but you do lose the cool effect of launching directly from the station. Now, even though Stealth, Rita, and Desert Race launch their trains directly from the load station, they all have a hidden trick that actually separates the load station and launch track. This all has to do with something called block zones. If you're somehow still unfamiliar, a block zone is a section of ride that only one train may occupy. At the end of a block zone is a method to stop a train in case the block zone ahead is still occupied. This is the safety system that prevents roller coaster trains from colliding into one another. If we were to outline the block zone diagram of Stealth, from a first glance it would go something like this. First, you would have the load station launch block, which extends from the beginning of the load station through the launch track and just past the crest of the top hat. Following is the service brake block, which extends from just past the crest of the top hat to the left turn into the unload station. And lastly, the unload station block. So a total of 3 block zones, allowing the ride to safely run 2 trains. With this block zone setup, it means that a train cannot launch from the load station unless the ride's second train is parked in the unload station. It also means the train in the unload station cannot advance into the load station until the train ahead exits the load station launch block and has fully entered the service brake block. So it would have to wait for the train ahead to crest the top hat before advancing into the load station. Now, that's how Stealth appears to operate, similarly to other launching coasters coasters that launch their trains directly from the station. And that's how I believed Stealth had always operated from when the ride opened in 2006 until just a few days ago. But it turns out that's not true. I first noticed in this video where a train advanced from the unload station to the load station as soon as the launch ended, meaning it advanced forward before the train ahead crested the top hat. I'll replay the clip with audio and note that as soon as the sound of the launch ends, the next train begins advancing into the load station, whereas normally it should have needed to wait several more seconds before advancing forward. And then in this video, a train rolls back and the other train is already parked in the load station, which completely blew my mind. Note how the train that rolled back slows to a crawl a short distance away from the train parked in the load station. The crazy thing is the load station and launch track are built at a slight upward incline, meaning that when a train rolls back and slows down on the launch track, the train slows to a crawl but continues to slowly roll backwards through the magnetic brakes due to gravity. Well, in this video following a rollback, you can see the train slowly creeping towards the load station, and then it stops just a few feet in front of the load station, which also blew my mind. The launch tracks of Intamin's accelerator coasters are lined with copper brake fins that interact with powerful permanent magnets mounted to the bottom of each train. It's a contactless system that can eliminate almost all of the speed of a moving train if needed, but it cannot fully stop a train on its own. On the launches of these coasters, trains can only be fully stopped by 2 drive tires placed at the start of each launch, which in the case of Stealth, Rita, and Desert Race is at the beginning of the load station. So how is it that 2 trains are able to occupy the launch block on Stealth, and that a train which rolled back can be safely brought to a stop in this location, which is well ahead of the drive tires located back here? The answer appears to be brake pads pictured here, which are built into a few of the adjustable brake fins on Stealth's launch. There appears to be 4 of these brake pads, which I'd guess are some sort of hard rubber or plastic. They're built into these 4 brake fins here, which are located just outside of the load station. They even move up and down with the brake fin they're attached to. In more recent days, they're a more noticeable lighter color, and in the past, they appear to have been black. Based on this video from 2006, Stealth appears to have opened with these brake pads already in place. These brake pads are most definitely what stopped the train in this video following its rollback. I believe they function by physically contacting the magnets mounted below each of Stealth's cars. And since the magnetic brake system bleeds almost all the speed from each moving train, the train should come to a full stop once the left and right magnets mounted beneath car 5 contact the first pair of brake pads shown here. Then for additional safety, another pair of brake pads are mounted after the first pair, but they're most likely never used. With these brake pads equipped, it means the load station and launch track can operate as 2 separate blocks in certain scenarios. So once a train launches from the station and the adjustable brakes raise back into the set position, meaning the brake pads are also now set, the train in the unload station is able to advance into the load station, even if the train that just launched hasn't crested over the top hat. This saves a good amount of time between each cycle, since the train in the unload station can advance right away instead of having to wait several more seconds for the train ahead to clear the top hat. And the ride appears to be aggressively programmed so that the train advances at a quick rate of speed. This helps cut down the amount of time between each launch, allowing more trains to launch an hour and for more riders to ride Stealth overall. Getting a little more technical with this hidden block zone, I believe the ride will basically alternate between having 3 and 4 block zones, with 3 block zones being the default. When the brakes on the launch track are lowered to allow a train to launch, the station and launch blocks combine since the brake pads in the launch track become tucked away and unusable. But once a train launches and the brake fins raise into the set position, the brake pads become active again, allowing the launch block to become separate from the load station like so. But even with the launch block being separate from the load station, a train is still not able to launch from the station until the ride's second train has exited the service brake block and has fully entered the unload station block. Now just for reference, pictured here are the brake pads on Rita at Alton Towers, and here are the brake pads on Desert Race at Heide Park. They're in the same position as they are on Stealth. After looking at the other Intamin accelerator coasters that launch directly from their station, it appears that only the accelerator coasters built at Merlin parks have these neat brake pads, so it would be safe to assume that Intamin and Merlin collaborated to make this happen. When analyzing the rides, Merlin could have chosen to employ a single station on all 3 of their accelerator coasters, placing it in the same position occupied by the unload stations. Then the load stations would have been a standalone launch block. This is how rides like Storm Runner operate, where the launch block is separate from the station. But I'd guess that because of how short the rides are in duration, even if trains were to launch from a block zone separate from the main station, each train would always finish the circuit and stack behind the train still loading in the main station. So rather than have a train just sit in the brake run, it was decided to have each train stack in an unload station and move the load station into the launch track. With the addition of brake pads, this seems like a great compromise, and I've seen a video of Stealth launching a train 75 seconds after the one ahead of it, which is extremely close to the ride's theoretical capacity. A launch every 75 seconds is 48 trains per hour, times 20 riders per train is a theoretical 960 riders per hour. Intamin states that Stealth has a theoretical capacity of 1,000 riders per hour, which requires just 2 more launches an hour at 50, which is a dispatch every 72 seconds. So shouts out to the Stealth crew who are running the ride at nearly the ride's maximum capacity. So that will do it for this quick nerdy dive on the hidden block zones used in Stealth, Rita, and Desert Race. I probably found this a little too exciting to be honest, but I love seeing innovation like this in roller coaster design. As much as I am a roller coaster enthusiast, I think I'm more of a roller coaster operations enthusiast. If you've ridden Stealth, Rita, or Desert Race, be sure to comment below what you think of them, as I have not had the pleasure of experiencing any of them yet. Hopefully one day I'll make it across the pond. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to see more nerdy videos just like this one. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.